All right, folks. So coming at you with another little gun review here for you, because as I'm sure everyone's aware of at this time, the coronavirus is absolutely everywhere, and people are having to stay at home, work from home, or have like odd work schedules, quarantine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So um, that of course includes me as well. So I've had quite a lot of free time actually to sit around and not do a whole lot. So, and that includes going to the range too, because I'm sure as everyone else has already seen, the prices for ammo have been absolutely outrageous. So I feel very kind of guilty about shooting up my own ammo, especially in my stash. Because it is so expensive right now, and we don't know when the prices are going to go back down again. So this seems like an excellent opportunity to segue into 22, right? Because 22 is actually surprisingly still available now. A lot of the places I go to, 22 is actually still on the shelf, and we're talking just regular old 22, like bulk pack type stuff. Is still on the shelf for a reasonable price, at least the price that it was before all this craziness happened. So 22 is available, right? Awesome, great. Before all this, though, I bought what I bought is this right here. This is a Walther or Umarex produced 1911-22 that has Colt's licensing and name smothered all over this thing. And the story with this is because Colt is usually in financial straits pretty much all the time. They figure, well, people really recognize and really like the Colt name, so why don't we go and license it to someone else, in which they did. So Walther / Umarex in Germany, I'm just going to call him Walther, okay, got together with Colt, and Colt provided a lot of technical data for Walther to produce a as close as possible, quote unquote, as close as possible original spec 1911 frame that they could then stick a dedicated kind of 22 system inside of it. And given the history of 1911s and 22 conversions, it's kind of a messy one. I know Colt for a little while had the Ace, I think it's called, 22, which is enormously expensive. I don't know how good it is. I've never seen one in person. I just know they go for a lot of money. And there's been various other companies that have produced 22 upper that go onto a regular 22 or a regular 1911 lower, and those have varying degrees of success, accuracy, quality. They've been all over the spectrum. I remember I did use a Kimber 22 upper once, and it was okay. Just didn't really, to me, feel like it warranted the price tag. It was like $500, $600 or something like that. And that was quite a few years ago. But anyway, GSG, or Sig Sauer, way back when, also made their own 1911 22, but I'll get into that a little bit later into the video as to why I prefer the Walther one over that one. But anyway, all that segues into, hey, I still want to shoot a 1911 style pistol, but I don't want to burn up all of my 45 expensive ammo, which I have stash of 45 ammo, but considering the prices and availability right now, it's a little hard to come across some of that stuff, so I feel a little guilty about shooting it. So why not get a as close as possible 22, to replicate that feel? And this, I think, definitely is the best example of that, at least what's available right now. So I went to my local Sportsman's Warehouse, and they happen to have one of these sitting there on the shelf for $280, which is a lot less than I found pretty much anywhere else. And I've been looking at this thing for quite a while, maybe a year or so. Normally these are like in the 300s, maybe low 400s, and this one was just sitting there brand new for $280, so I picked it up. And this was before all of that, so I really just wanted, 45 was still, back then it was still even more expensive to shoot than 9mm, so it's not something that I was going to go and spend $200-$300 on and go buy 1,000 rounds of 45 and call it good. Some days I just wanted to be a little bit cheaper and just blink around with something like this, so I did. So that is the main role of why I picked this thing up, is because it was such an accurate and good feeling replica of the two other 1911s that I have. I was very, very impressed by it, actually holding it in the store and everything, and getting a feel for it. It actually weighs quite a bit. I think if you look at Walther's own statistics for this gun. I think it only weighs about, I want to say 2-4 ounces less than an actual 1911 and 45, which is pretty cool. So you do get the heft of it. The main difference though is some of the internals with the frame are a little bit different. You can't, for example, take a 45 slide and put it on this and expect it to work. It won't. So this is a true blue dedicated 22 only platform. So, but the big difference that caught my eye was the slide. It's actually made out of like I think like aluminum, and the barrel is actually fixed. It's not a tilting Browning action. It's just a straight blowback. Very similar, actually, in a lot of ways to another Walther pistol, the P22. Very, 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 very similar construction and kind of internal system they use. I'll probably get into that a little bit more at the breakdown of this gun. And another feature that makes this gun really cool is the breakdown, because some of the other competition out there for other 1911-22 pistols is the breakdown for them is it's fiddly, to say the least. There's a lot of parts, there's a lot of different things that make it so much different from a regular 1911 that if you don't know or have experience with that specific takedown for that pistol, you could have parts flying everywhere, you could just easily get confused, but this one is a lot simpler. So, but first we'll go into, so that was first impressions. How does it shoot? So when I took it out, I noticed that this is a kind of an older style 1911 in the sense that the trigger itself is long. My more modern 1911s have a much shorter trigger that sticks more rearward in the frame. But the trigger itself is actually surprisingly heavy for a 1911. It still breaks excellently because it is a single action design. Still breaks awesome. It's just the actual like poundage for breaking the trigger. Walther advertises like I think a 5.5 pound trigger, which I will say is pretty accurate because this is quite a heavy trigger for what it is. It's not uncomfortable, it's not unreasonable, but it is much noticeably more heavier than a regular 1911 would be. And that's kind of a little bit of a gripe I have against it, but I don't know if that's something I can fix later. I can maybe drop in a different trigger in here, or it just loosens up with use and time. I don't know. I have yet to see. I've only got about 1,000 rounds through this gun now, so. But yeah, that was the first thing that stood out to me. The next thing was the kind of like the recoil impulse. Because this thing weighs an absolute ton, this gun just doesn't move in your hand with any 22 load that I've used through it. It's very, very easy to get back on target, very easy to clear malfunctions or anything else that goes on. It's just good all around. For accuracy testing, I took it out to about 20 yards because that's the furthest that my indoor range could go. And it was during one of those days where I was told not to go into work, so I was just really, really bored, and I'm like, man, I need to go do something. So I went to my indoor range and did some accuracy testing with this pistol. And out of the tons and tons of different loads that I had just sitting around, what I found it liked the most as far as accuracy was Aguila Sniper Subsonics, the big 60 grain, big old fat things. It liked CCI Stingers, Remington Thunderbolt, which is surprising. Aguila Competition, Ely produced ammo. Ely is really good stuff. Ely, I don't know how to pronounce it. If you've shot a lot of 22, you know that Ely is really, really high quality ammo. Excellent stuff. I also like the way it smells. Federal Target, which is kind of like, it looks almost like a gold medal matchbox. So it's got like the kind of like the blazing orange with the gold and everything and the black label. Federal Target, I really like those. And it also really liked the Federal Gold Medal Match Target ammo, of course, because that's Gold Medal Match ammo. I expect it to be good. So the best accuracy I got out of this gun, though, was even with these dinky little, very, very basic, rear kind of notch sights, is I got 1.5 inches at 20 yards using the Ely match ammo. So plenty accurate for me. I mean, even with those sights, not having a target sights, not having a target trigger, basically brand new out of the box gun with some nice match ammo. I mean, that was great, phenomenal. Very, very pleased with that. And on average with the other stuff, I was getting around 2.5 to 2 inch groups at 20 yards, which was totally respectable for me, especially for a gun that only cost me about $300 out the door, right? So it just owes to maybe a little bit more to me and my familiarization with the 1911 platform. I've been shooting 1911s since oh gosh, since I was a little kid. That was the pistol that I grew up shooting. You know, I didn't start on 22s. I started on 45s. You know, because my dad always told me that real men shoot 45s. So I have a lot of time and experience at 1911 platforms. So maybe it's just more of me. But the pistol can definitely do the job, and it is perfectly accurate for what I'm sure anybody would want to do with it. So it shot very well. So let's see the magazines. Magazines are your pretty standard. If you've ever seen any kind of Walther or Smith & Wesson 22 magazine, I'm pretty sure they're all made in exactly the same spot, in the same factory, in the same way. It's your stainless steel kind of body that's kind of fit, pressed together, and has a follower on the side there. So these are typically pretty high quality magazines. I haven't really had issues with these at all in any gun that uses this kind of magazine. Never had any feeding issues. If there was any reliability issues, it was due to the ammo. So speaking of reliability issues, because it is a 22, there is inherent unreliability with the ammo. So the only malfunctions I ever got out of this were due to ammo, either being underpowered, not powerful enough to cycle the slide action properly, or a failure to fire. So I had like a light primer strike or something like that with some lower quality ammo, and ended up being a dud anyway. Not because the hammer and the firing pin were not strong enough, it's just because the ammo itself was of low quality. So quite happy with that. Oops. All right, so we'll get into the takedown here and why I like this gun more than the other one, the GSG version. And that's because it takes down very, very similarly to an actual 1911. So one thing else I definitely noticed about this too is how easy it is to rack the slide on this versus a regular 1911. It kind of has to be that way because the slide is made out of aluminum. It doesn't weigh anything, and the recoil spring itself is also obviously not as substantial as a 45 model. So anyway, we're checked, clear, good to go. And the way I like to check or like to start off at 1911s is I'll take the what do you call it, recoil spring plug out first. So just like a regular 1911, you'll push down on the recoil spring plug there, move the bushing out of the way, and hold on to that because it will fly across the room. And then take the plug off, set that aside. And I did put an aftermarket recoil spring in here, just wanted to see if it would work or not. And it has been for me so far. So we'll just take the recoil spring out now. That'll save us some trouble. And then the barrel bushing up here in the front actually does rotate just like a regular 1911. So it has its 45 degree and then a 90 degree all the way on the other side. We'll take that out now. Now this is where it changes. So because this is a fixed barrel, not a tilting barrel, the way this is going to come off is going to be, the slide will come off is very similar to like a Makarov or a PP, Walther PP design. So we'll just push it all the way back. And then we'll lift up on the rear here. Oops, something here, hang on. Oh, I think actually, I gotta take out the slide stop. All right, so it's a little bit different from what I'm used to. So anyway, you gotta take out this slide stop here, and it is actually in there pretty good. I usually have trouble getting it out, so because of how it's set up, there is a kind of like a C-shaped kind of spring, looks almost like a paper clip on the inside of the frame here that's holding the slide lock release lever together, or like tight against the frame, so you have to fight against that while you're trying to push it out at the same time. So I have to use something else to push it out the other side, and there it is. So we'll just take that out. Now, if I'm doing this correctly, this should just come off just like that. So here's your slide, and here's your frame. So this is what it looks like when it's field stripped. The barrel is obviously fixed in there. and it's got a big old fat ejector stuck in there. And another big difference is normally down in this channel here there would be a not sure the technical term for it, but like I don't know, a part of the frame basically where your recoil assembly would sit, but it comes out in a little block that looks like this. This is where your recoil spring sits in that channel there up against the frame. And that is a big difference from a lot of the other designs as well. So you can see it kind of fits just like that, and then the spring plug would be up here. So that's all I need to do to field strip this thing. It's quite simple, actually. A tiny bit different from an actual 1911, but that's just due to the nature of it being a 22. But it's not like the GSG where there's like 10 different parts and different things you have to take out and put back in and whatever. It's a bit more complicated, I think. But yeah, your slide, very, very lightweight, doesn't weigh hardly anything. Looks a little bit different from a regular 1911, obviously. It doesn't have the locking lugs, recesses in the top of the slide there. Has a breech block that's been pressed into place and has a roll pin holding it there, kind of like old school SIGs in a way. But all the quality on this is really, really top-notch stuff. There's nothing in here that would suggest that this is low quality by any means. I know a lot of people out there like to deride the Umarex products as being cheap or not well made, but to be honest, this is probably one of their better lines. So very, very impressed with the quality of this. It weighs a ton, as a 1911 should, and yeah, it's high quality stuff. So I will say though that this kind of barrel design, fixed barrel design, is kind of one of Walther's mainstays for their 22s and has been for a long time. You'll have a big fat kind of fixed block right here that's attached to the frame, and then as you'll notice, or maybe you can pick it out there in the light, see that there's a little line there. So the barrel itself is actually this really thin pencil barrel thing that is attached. It's one piece with this block right here, and this block is sitting up against the fixed frame block, and that whole assembly can actually come out of the gun if you take this like little muzzle nut right here. If you take this off with the little wrench that they give you, this little thing right here, you can take off that muzzle nut, comes off, and then this whole sleeve right here, this is all the sleeve, this comes off, and then you have your pencil barrel that's sitting underneath. Now I'm not going to do that here because it's kind of a pain in the ass to put it all back together, but you can actually take the barrels out of these guns and do whatever you need to do with them. But that is a system that Walther has been using for a lot of their pistols for quite a long time, I would imagine. At least up until as long as these P22s have been produced, because it is exactly the same system. So the actual barrel itself is this really thin little barrel that sits in here. I don't think that really affects any kind of durability or accuracy with these things, because I've never had an issue with them ever, and they seem plenty accurate enough to me. But the cool part about that is I have a Walther P22 muzzle adapter here, right? So that's the other cool thing is all of these barrels are threaded on the inside underneath this muzzle cap. And if you have the proper adapter, like this one, you can screw that on the end of it, and that'll serve as your muzzle nut cap to keep the sleeve and the barrel together. And then I think they're threaded 1/2 by 28, which is the usual thread for 22s. And you can stick stuff like this on the end of it. And this is just a fake can, it's not a real one. I just like to use it because it looks cool and it weighs a whole bunch, so it makes the gun easier to shoot. And yeah, just for looks and fun. But yeah, the adapter that I originally got for the P22 also fits on this gun, which I think is pretty cool. So there are some parts that go interchange with each other, and honestly, I would not be surprised if these actual barrels could interchange with each other. I'm not going to try that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, because this is a tried and true system for Walther for sure. So anyway, we'll put this back together. Putting this back together is a little bit weird too, because this recoil block here is it's just in there. There's nothing securing it, but you have to play around with it a little bit. Otherwise, it gets in the way of the slide lock release lever. So you kind of have to jiggle it around a little bit whenever you are reassembling this. It's still a million times easier though, I think, than the GSG. That's for sure. So let's see. Yeah, I kind of shake it forward a little bit, and then I have to put this cross pin back in here, which is kind of a pain, because you don't want to get the idiot mark that I unfortunately have done with one of my 1911s, where you're trying to put this cross pin back in, and then as you're putting it in, you just scrape all on the side of the frame there. It's just bad. There we go. Put the recoil spring back on, put the plug. There you go, all put back together. Super easy. So yeah. So that's pretty much this gun in a nutshell. I really like it. Yeah, as anyone knows that been watching the channel for a little while or knows me, I'm definitely a Walther fan. I like Walther's products, and this is just yet another pretty cool offering by them, or Umarex, whoever you want to call it. It is pretty cool too that it is licensed by Walther, licensed by Colt. So it is as pretty much as authentic as you're going to get, because I really do not see Colt making their own dedicated 22 like this. I really don't see them doing that. So in the meantime though, this is about as close as you're going to get, other than buying like a Colt Ace. But like I said, I've never seen one of those in person. I don't think people really want to sell them too much, because they are prohibitively expensive, and they're kind of more of a collector's item than just a plinker like this one is. So yeah, just another cool product from Walther, and definitely has a place in my arsenal right now, and especially during these times when 45 is very expensive, very scarce, because everyone's panic buying, everyone's hoarding it, everyone's price gouging and being an asshole. So little 22s like this have had their place before in times like this, and they certainly will in the future. So if you're really itching to get your 1911 practice in, but you don't want to be shooting your more expensive ammo, this is definitely a nice option. And there's even parts commonality too with the frames on these. There's a lot of regular 1911 parts that will fit into these just fine. So if you have your favorite trigger system out there, your favorite mainspring housing, your grip safety, whatever, a lot of those parts can interchange. So just something, if you're looking for more on the customizability aspect of these guns, you can absolutely do that. So I think I've said all I need to say about these, but yeah, in times like this where getting ammo is hard because panic buyers are being silly and people are hoarding, blah, 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 22s will definitely always have a place as a general purpose practice round. Something to shoot, something to plink with when you either don't have any ammo available, or you just don't want to because everything is so expensive that you don't want to dig into your stash, like me. So yeah, really cool gun. I know there's some fancier models out there. Some of them have a pick rail on them. Some of them have target sights and like a fake suppressor on the end of it. There's different models of it, and honestly, I really do think they're all worth the money, if you ask me. I haven't had any issues with this gun whatsoever. It appears to be very high quality to me. I really enjoy it. So I think it's quite a bit better than the GSG 1911-22. So personal opinion, maybe you like yours more than this one, or maybe you haven't seen this one or haven't seen the other one. Either way, I really do think, from my impressions and everything, that this is a better 1911-22. So that's really all I got to say about that, and I'm sure I've said everything that needs to be said, and yeah. But y'all stay safe out there during these absolutely crazy times, and yeah, always remember to keep a little bit of stash of ammo for yourself, just in case you need to, ventilate somebody who has decided to raid your property for the wondrous prize that is toilet paper. So y'all stay safe out there. We'll see you next time.